I actually came prepared tonight with notes like to remind us what's actually going on in Beachbody. Like I never do that, Carrie. I don't know if you do that, but I usually get way too excited at the beginning and then I don't even talk about any announcements. I noticed last time, I think it was you that you spoke, you even said the date. I was like, oh, maybe I should start saying the date. And then I was like, what is today's date? The 14th. So it's September 14th if you're tuning in. A year from now, to shut it off, it doesn't matter anymore. No, I'm just kidding. But we do have some cool things that hopefully you guys took note of in your back office under the breaking news. And I know we got Carrie, which I don't know her last name, that she's brand new and we got it all figured out and got her muted today. So I don't know if everybody knows how to even get to their online office, but if you don't, make sure you ask your coach. You know, it should have came in your first 30 days. Like it's called the first 30. It should have came from Beachbody in an email that kind of shares, tells you how to get to your back office, your coach ID, all of that kind of stuff. But this is pretty big news and we should all see, we should all be cheering right now. Maybe have a glass of wine or something. I'm on the reset so that here we go. Oh, cheers. But the 10% discount has been removed, right? And so that's a pretty big thing. I think if you're a newer coach, I think you're going to be more encouraged through it because I think it's a big deal when you're starting out. You know, for me, like Chad always said, like, I don't even know why you kept showing up, Summer. Like there was like, just no income. Like it was just like nothing. But I'm stubborn. That is one thing. When I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I was bound and determined to learn how to help people with what I had already helped me. So I know that you start to learn things and you're showing up to webinars and all that kind of stuff and you're investing time in, and I know the 10% discount kind of hindered some of our paychecks a little bit at the new coach level. And so I think that's really encouraging. And I think you're all going to see an increase in your income. And I think that's going to excite us because I don't know about you, like my business is a business and a ministry, but it's a business first. I'm not for nonprofit. So, and I would think you're probably not either. Like, I know you want to make money, even if you don't need money, like give it to somebody that does, we're building houses in Nicaragua or there's all kinds of things. So you want to make money. I would hope you signed up to make money. And for me, it was just $200 that brought me back to the table at night with Griffin and Chad. And so I know that we have some goals like that on our team where, $200, $300, $500 would make all the difference. So when that 10% was lifted off, I think all of us did a happy dance. So, you should start to see some impacts of that. We have the Clean Week sneak peek coming up on September 19th. And I think I love you guys, how Beachbody and Carl Deichler is always listening to us. I mean, we've been doing like 10-day Shakeology challenges and detoxes and cleanses. And then they came out with the 3-day refresh. They're always listening. Like before challenge packs came out, we were running challenge groups and they paired them together for us. Like they're always listening. I mean, I've never been a part of any company that listened as well as they did and really tried to help us succeed. They definitely didn't do that in the military. I mean, you could talk all day long about like nothing working in the Prowler and it was like, you have an ejection button. You know what I mean? Like, so it's really cool that the Clean Week is coming out, in my opinion. Also, we have Super Saturday coming up. You guys, if you can get around people that, like I always say, the 5 people that you're around, who you're around matters. You know what I mean? As long as, I did a post today in a leadership group about how, I don't know about who you guys were before you joined, but I know who I was before I joined. And I wasn't very pleasant. I was kind of, I was happy, but I could be a hothead. Do you know what I mean? I could get really frustrated really quickly. And it definitely wasn't my fault. It was Chad's or somebody else's, right? And so when things get frustrating, and you will go through ups and downs in the business because it's a business and it's only through, I was listening to Pep Talk today. It talked about how in the valley, you have to have the valleys because that's where you are forced to grow so that you can go to the next level in life, right? And so we're all going to go through these dips. And I think who you surround yourself by matters, because if you're surrounding yourself by negativity and complaining and frustration, it's very normal to slip into it. At least I did. You know, back when we're in the military, and, you know, about 8 years ago, we'd get together for a wine night, watch The Bachelorette, and we didn't really watch it. We really just complained about our husbands. So you can imagine how well my marriage was going. Do you know what I mean? So like, you really do like, and I wasn't even mad at Chad, but you would start listening. You'd be like, yeah, dang right. Like, why didn't he come home sooner? He did that. He went and drank with all the guys while I'm taking care of the kid. You know what I mean? I wasn't even mad, but now I'm mad. Like, it just seemed right. You know, like, we're all mad. Like, I wanted to fit in. Let's be mad. So if you go to a Super Saturday and you get around people that are moving in a positive direction, and you put yourself in a space to have a why not me moment, like I did about 7 years ago or so, when I heard Janelle Summers speak. And I remember listening to her speak thinking, like, she became human to me. Whereas before she was like, Janelle, like, Shalene's sister. Of course she's succeeding. It's Shalene's sister. See, I told you 7 years ago, I had a reason why everybody else was succeeding and not me, right? But then when I sat in that room around this positive energy and heard these stories, it brought me up to eye level, and there was a heart connection that is really hard to have when you're not in the same room. So I want you to look in the back office, or ask in Team Courage, or ask in your team page, like, where is everybody going? And if you are in driving distance, please get there and get surrounded by people. So, and according to my notes, that is all I have for announcements, and you can now listen to the fun people. So Carrie, you ready, girl? You can announce Sam, and I'm excited to hear Sam. I was reading her thing, like, when you sent it to me, and I was like, well, where has she been all this time? Like, where's she hiding? Quietly in the back?
Yeah, and that's totally Sam. I'd say she's more comfortable in the background getting stuff done, but it's been incredible to watch her true transformation and how she's blossomed into such an incredible leader that adds so much value to so many people. And Summer, a couple weeks ago, asked us if we wanted to jump on the calls and share it and co-host with the leader. And she came to mind first. And I mean, I don't want to take up your time. I'm going to let her jump in here right away and just start giving you a little bit about her background. But I do have to say, you guys are going to learn a whole lot with a whole lot of heart behind it. And when Summer was mentioning, you know, surround yourself with people that lift you higher, that inspire you to be better. Sam was definitely one of those people. And she was also one of those people that I was like, she has all her everything together. You know, she was an Olympic gold medalist and world record holder, you know, like her marriage looks amazing and her kids are adorable. So she was one of those people that I was like, but I bit the bullet and I reached out, and ended up being good timing, even though it was really crazy timing. And I think I kind of tried to talk her out of it, honestly, to be truthful. And I'm so thankful that she jumped in. So Sam, want to take it away?
Thank you. Okay. Hi, everyone. So I just have to say, listening to both of you talk, Summer, I don't even know if Carrie has shared with you, like, why she actually invited me. And it goes back to a conversation that you had with her about not keeping someone's future captive in their mouth. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know how many other people Carrie was in that, you know, in that position where she was not saying anything, but I am so grateful that she did, because my life has completely changed, right? It's like I've come home to me. And so it's just a powerful, like, this is a perfect example of the ripple effect that, you know, we have in this world. We have this opportunity. So the topic tonight, so Carrie asked me to join her on this call, and I am really excited to share about inviting, because this was a place where I was very stuck. So you say, where have I been hiding? I have been hiding, or had been hiding, underneath my perfectionist armor for years. So that moment on the podium that Carrie mentioned, when I won an Olympic gold medal, changed my life. And it's in a way which I'm guessing that you probably don't think, right? That moment changed me and really catapulted me into a deep, deep darkness that I had to learn how to climb out of. And I talk a lot about that when I'm sharing publicly. I want to steer myself toward inviting because I could really talk to you and share a lot because this Beachbody has been a vehicle for me that's helped me to transform from the inside out. And I have the physical transformation stories too. You know, when I first got started, I'll share a little bit about that, but really it's allowed me to come out of that perfectionist armor that went up so thick after I won that medal and acquired this new title. I didn't know how I should be in the world. I didn't know how an Olympian should act. I didn't know how they should look. Like I had all these shoulds, and we do that too as Beachbody coaches. We should. Can I swear on this call? Okay. We shit all over ourselves with the shoulds, you know? And so that's one of the things I want to talk to you about. But when I started this journey it was crazy timing. I had reached out to Carrie after, we shit on our own stuff. It's so true, right? I reached out to Carrie and became a customer. I don't know if any of you have been around long enough to remember the Les Mills pump, the at-home version, but that was my first program because I loved Body Pump. And I had twins at home and a toddler. So I had 3 kids under 2.5. And so I was like, Carrie, I need to do this program. Don't talk to me about coaching. I want nothing to do with it. Like, I just want the program. I paid full price for that bad boy. I did not want anything to do with Shakeology, even though my mom had been drinking it for years. That was stupid. Like I was that customer, right? So she was like, okay, here you go. And I had a really powerful transformation physically and also emotionally, right? As I started to progress. So as the summer went by, right, we realized my daughter was diagnosed with a heart murmur. So my twins, one of the twins, so I had 3 kids under 2.5 or 3 at that point, and one was diagnosed with a heart condition that she would need open heart surgery for. So it was actually this exact time 4 years ago where I reached out to Carrie after doing Les Mills Pump, and I was like, I want to sign up to coach. I want to try Shakeology. And it made absolutely no sense. Logistically, it just didn't make sense. You know, I was scared to death. My brother had open heart surgery a few years before hers, and he ended up having a heart attack and has permanent damage in his heart. And so it was like almost Twilight Zone-y, and it was my baby. It was just a whole lot of everything. And there was this really tiny piece of me that would scroll on social media and see my friends' posts and just feel like, oh my gosh, if I could just help them, if I could just help them, right? And so you have twins too, one tomorrow. I don't know what that means, but I love how they're twin mamas. Oh, they're turning 1. Oh, yay. I don't even remember that year. I remember parts of it. So I signed up to coach. So we had that conversation, but I hammered Carrie with a million questions, and, you know, she had shared the coaching opportunity, and she shared what Summer had said to her, you know, so, you know, basically I can't keep this captive in my mouth. Like, I can't not share this with you. But we were both just like, I don't even remember the details of that conversation other than I want to get Shakeology, and then, okay, I'm putting it on hold now because we have to go to the hospital, right? So I was like, my coaching journey, I think I share that piece for you to be patient if you have people like that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, the letting go piece with invites, because I believe that in order to be really successful in hitting your goals, you have to do so much letting go. And Carrie was my person. I wouldn't have joined anyone else, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't have she was just exactly what I needed in that moment. She held space for me without judgment. There were no assumptions made. There was no judgment made. She just held space for me and was like, okay, yes, let's do this. Okay, you need to put it on hold. Here's the number. Okay, here we go. So fast forward through a lot. I came out of that hospital stay with PTSD because she had a tumultuous experience there. We almost lost her. I actually thought she was gone. I felt her soul leave. She went into heart failure after her surgery. And I mean, it rocked my world, you know? I mean, it was 41 excruciatingly brutal days that changed my brain forever. And as I've shared my journey and I've shared through this vehicle, like this opportunity, if we're allowing other people to see us, then we're telling our story, and telling our story has the power to heal us. It forces us to do the personal development. It forces us to go into therapy. It forces us to work with coaches. It forces us to do all those things so that we can synthesize and tell our story, not from an open wound, but from a scar. And so as I, came out on the other side of it, it wasn't about weight loss. I didn't eat anything for 41 days. I mean, my mom would make me shakes and hand them to me out the door, but I was surviving. And so I came home on the back end of that. And it was 2 months later. I mean, the PTSD was, if you struggle with it, it is, I mean, I could talk for days about that too. The only thing I knew about it was what I saw in movies, and that does not even come close to capturing what the experience is like. I was literally in survival mode and had this entire team waiting to embrace me and support me. And Carrie was one of at night when you come home, because I was nursing, I was pumping milk during the day at the hospital and coming home to nurse her twin sister. And it was just this back and forth place. And at night I would go to this, I would just go to Facebook and scroll, and I'd see these messages, and I'd go to our Caring Bridge page, and Carrie was a rock. Like she showed up for me in ways where other people didn't have the capacity to. And that transcends any kind of shake or fitness program, right? Like she was just that. I mean, there's so much power there. So that first, the first time I said to her, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm not sharing anything. I'm not sharing any selfies or anything like that. I'm not taking, I'm not doing any of that, but I'm going to do this. And on that day that I decided to do that was about 3 months after discharge day. And I was Emerald that day because I made the decision. And this is a skill set I believe that helped me to get, have the success in my life. When I make a decision, I take action toward it. So it was Emerald that day with my mom and my husband on board. And I was diamond within 90 days, I think. And I was a diamond, but I was a hollow diamond. I had about one coach, maybe two coaches that were actually working, and they were more like hobby-ish coaches. But I was very armored up and also living with PTSD. And I was triggered, I would say, at the beginning, almost 100% of the time. And that started to wane. But what I realized through that, when it was her first year anniversary came up, which is a massive event if you have dealt with anything like this. And I was reading a Costco magazine and found the words of Brene Brown. And it was literally in that moment, that was a life-changing moment for me, where I read her guidepost for the gifts of imperfection. If you don't know who she is, oh my gosh, find her. She's a researcher, storyteller, and she writes about perfection and shame and vulnerability and all of these things that if we want to be seen, we have to be able to work through. And if we want to be good at coaching, we have to be able to be seen. So I'll get to that, I promise. So I opened up this magazine and I was like, who is this lady? Where's she? Who is this woman? I need to read this book, because every single one of our 10 guideposts, I felt like she was in my head. And I'm like, are you talking about me? Did you write this book about me? So I devoured her book, and that cracked me open and allowed me to really just shed my armor, the perfectionist armor. And when I say that, what I mean is I had this deep-seated fear of what others would think of me. And I had the gifts of imperfection. Brene Brown, she is amazing. I had this fear of how of what this is crazy. There's 3 types of perfection, just to kind of give you an overview. There's the self-imposed, where you expect yourself to show up perfectly. Then there's that you put on others. When you talk about your marriage, Summer, that was me, like how I showed up in my marriage, perfectionist armor. I mean, I don't know where we would be without this vehicle in our lives, because by me being able to drop my perfectionist armor, my husband could show up, because before that, nothing he did was ever good enough. I mean, that's the voice of perfection. Nothing's good enough. He would try his best and it was not good enough, right? So that is the imposed, where you impose it on others. And then there's this piece of perfection that I think haunts a lot of us as Beachbody coaches. And that is the idea that others expect us to be perfect. So we start to storytell about how others expect us to be in the world. And we try to contort ourselves and act a certain way and say certain things and keep it all together and present ourselves in a way in this world where we think we're under this assumption, we believe that we have this control of how others perceive us. And that's how I was living. Like, I couldn't put myself up in a sports bra. Are you kidding me? How many times I said that to Carrie? And she was just like, okay, like there was no judgment there, really. And that is something I really, like, if she had judged me, I would have been like, peace, I'm out.
But I may have done the biggest happy dance the first post that came out from Sam. I was like, she's in.
Oh my goodness, right?
I think that was like a turning point for you, being really all in and being vulnerable and being authentically you, because you were proud of who you were. It was just peeling that Band-Aid off.
Oh my goodness, ripping it off, right? And so what I want to share with you, I think tonight with the invitation process, you know, for me, before, what it looked like before when I got to Diamond was mostly honestly studying Summer's videos, right? Like, that's the first thing I did. I went in the back office and I was, you know, reading them all, watching them all, and I was doing everything she said to do, trying to be Summer, trying to be Carrie, trying to be Megan, trying to be Courtney, trying to be them, right? And it works. Like, you can try to do that. It worked for me because what they're doing is working, but it only took me to a certain point because, you know, in order for me to really start to grow a team around me, I needed my people. And in order for me to attract my people, I had to show them me. And so I believe that successful coaches are the ones who can really are aware of the stories they tell themselves, and they're able to rewrite the limiting beliefs so that they can show up authentically and let go of all the other stuff that comes with that. So I wrote myself notes because I want to make sure that I get to what I wrote down for you. But I think there was one point, I think it was Janelle. I think it might have been Summit. And she said the word unapologetic. And I remember that first event, there's no, like, they're not like your mentor coaches, Summer, like Carrie, no one's lying when they say these events change you. These events change you. My first summit was another massive point for me. So after reading Brene Brown's work, the next summer I went to Summit, and I think it was Janelle. I think she was the presenter, and she said, you know, whatever, you know, rewriting and editing the stories and allowing yourself to be unapologetically you. And that word, unapologetically, is so incredibly powerful. And we're mostly women in this business, though there are men on our teams. But a lot of us, you know, there's a lot of reasons why, but we shut down, right? That we shut down so much of ourselves. And we show up apologizing a lot, like apologizing for taking up too much space, apologizing for being too loud, apologizing for being, you know, all these things instead of being totally, fully okay with who we are. And so that word really, really resonated with me, and apologetically me. So I wrote it on my whiteboard, and that was another huge turning point for me, where when I would show up to do the invitations, it was like, why am I going to apologize for something that's working for me? Like, why do we show up when we come, you know, when you're coming to a conversation with somebody and you're inviting them? Why am I apologizing for what works for me? Why am I embarrassed to wear a 21-day thick shirt in this small little town that we live in? What am I embarrassed about? And it took me like walking through that and saying, okay, let's say that someone talks about me. I'm wearing my 21-day thick shirt. They start talking about me, talking to somebody else, and there's this whole little group of people in this tiny little rural town that we live in, and they all start talking about me. Do I really give a shit what people are going to say if it's something that I'm doing that works for me, that makes me happy, that fills my bucket, that makes me feel good in this world? Do I really care what someone who wants to show up in the world like that says about me, you know? So that was what unapologetic meant to me, was like, why am I apologizing for what I love and what's helped me, you know, succeed in this world and step into me and feel happy and be present for my girls? I mean, I could go on about the transformation, but that word unapologetically. So I think for me, the big piece is the storytelling. So invitation for me got easier. It's still not easy. You know, I still get nervous and I still avoid it. And I still, you know, if I look at the things like eat that frog, right? Like doing all those things, it's like, okay, yeah, that's the piece that's hard. It's hard because You have to be seen. When you put up the invitation, you have to be seen. And when you allow yourself to be seen, there will be people who are critics of you. Like you can't have it any other way. And when you're a perfectionist, you struggle with perfection, you think that if you just show up perfectly and you look perfect and you act perfect, that you won't be subject to any of that, right? But the reality is there will be people who criticize you. And so it's how you know, once you're able to accept that and own that and realize like, I can't control that and I don't necessarily care what they say anyway, it's easier to share publicly. So there's that public piece of inviting, right? Where you put it out there for the world to see, this is what I'm doing. And then there's the part you bring to the private conversations, which is where I struggled. And, you know, Carrie helped me at the beginning walk through it. Like, and she still does if I get stuck. And she's like, just say what you mean. Like, what are you thinking? Just say it. Because I get caught in my own head. And so I think that the first thing that we have to do is get underneath. So I have 4 tips for you. The first one is that you have to get underneath the toxic undercurrents of your own story in your life. So what are your beliefs? Because if you know, lots of what I share in the, you know, here tonight have been said before, right? On these calls, I've seen them in videos. I've heard them on stage at Summit. I've watched clips from other mentors. And it's not until you do the work with figuring out what's holding you back, because your beliefs dictate your emotion, what you feel. So if you think of your beliefs like the goggles that you wear, your lens, and with you view the world. Then you have your emotions that come up from your belief set. And then you have the thoughts that come from the emotions. And then you have the actions. And so if you think about the invitation process and starting to compose a private message to somebody, if you believe that you're bothering them, then you're going to show up in a way, like if your belief is like, this inviting thing is invasive, like I'm a pain, I'm bothering people, like I'm annoying them, then you're going to bring that energy with you when you craft that message. And they can feel that on the other end. If you believe, like, you know, I always have, but the storytelling ran away, you know, with the perfection piece. If you believe that you are a bridge, right? If you are offering them a gift that can literally change their life, then that comes across with the energy that you bring to that message. And you're not apologetic, and you're not going to back down when they start to object. You will step into that and be able to say, okay, if your belief is that you're helping them. So I'll run through, some of my beliefs when I first started were, I'm not enough. I mean, that's a deep rooted, I'm not enough. It's never enough, right? That's a deep rooted belief that I've had to work on. And it still creeps up, right? I'm not worthy of success. I mean, these are deeply seated beliefs that come from our experiences in this world, right? Probably from the time you're really little. Success is hard. That was another belief of mine. My worthiness is measured by Success Club points and achievements and rank and all of that. That one's really powerful. You get to determine what success is for you, and it doesn't touch your worthiness. It just doesn't. You're worthy without conditions, and that is what you tell, I'm assuming that is what you tell your clients when it comes to the scale, is that the scale is one measurement, one form, but it has nothing to do with their worthiness, right? They're worthy no matter what, without conditions. So you get to define what success looks like for you and whether you succeed. And I mean, we could go on about that too, right? What that actually means. But that piece, right, of tying it and connecting it to my worthiness really would, I mean, so if I was doing well and I hit Success Club, then I'd bring great energy to the, you know, messages that I was writing and crafting when I was inviting. If I had just had a rejection and someone said no or whatever, then I bring like total shit energy to the next invite, or I'd totally retreat and back down, right? So people think this is a scam. Like I was walking around waiting for someone to say, you're a fraud. Like you're found out. This whole thing is a joke and you've just been caught, you know? And so when you come with energy like that, that's not only what you attract, right? But it's also how you write the messages, and then you kind of dance around, and then you get it all entangled with defending the product and, you know, and getting comparison charts and all that stuff. Like forget about all that, right? Go back to, does this work for you? Is this a powerful tool for you? Do you believe it will help them? If you believe it will help them, then you share it with them, right? So I'm bothering people. That was another one of mine. I'm not a good enough leader. So the same I feel like the parallels between our coaching with clients and our coaching as mentors is like it's the same. I mean, it's the same way. We show up in the same way, so if I didn't check in on somebody, or if I had a coach quit, those cancellations still make me feel like I want to throw up. And it's getting better, because the story that I used to tell myself was, then it was something that I did. I didn't do enough for them. I didn't show up enough for them. And it was all these stories that I told myself based on the limiting belief that I was not a good enough leader. And now I understand, like, this isn't about me. This is about them and their choices, right? So I suck at social media. I mean, I could go on, right? I had a lot of stories, and they were bullshit. And until you get underneath the bullshit stories that you tell yourself when you show up to write messages about, and this comes from Rooftop, Summer, when you had oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on his name. What was his name? Yes, Scott. Yeah. When he was talking about stories and how our brains are hardwired. I mean, your brains are hardwired, right? So you see all these pieces, and then we fill in the blanks. So your brain wants a story. And so if you see a post on social media, or you see someone's comment, or in my case, I'd be like, this is something that Carrie's really good at. Okay. She's really good at giving the gift of generosity, which is I think what allows us to show up in a really powerful way when we're inviting. If someone didn't write me back, the story I told myself was I sucked. I pissed them off. They are not interested. I mean, I could just give you a rundown. Carrie would be like, maybe their kid got their message. Like, what? So that's her limiting belief. I mean, that's her belief set. Mine was a total limiting belief. Like, so I shut down, and I just buried myself. Meanwhile, she's on and about her way, like inviting more people because maybe their kid got their phone. So we have a choice. We can assume and give them the gift of generosity and go about our day with that level of energy, or we can say, like, okay, I suck and everything, I'm not enough and I'm not a good leader and, all this, right? Yes. So it's like, yeah, so that's huge, the gift of generosity, giving that to others and giving it to yourself too. So, so I've learned so much from you. I'm telling you, all of it pulled together. So someone didn't answer me, I'm bothering them. Someone switched coaches. I've had that happen. I suck, right? On and on. I mean, it just went on and on. It was ridiculous. But real. Ridiculous, but real. And I think it's really important that you hear, I'm sitting, what am I now? What's my rank? 1 star. My mom's on the call. She will be diamond soon to get me to 2. Let's say like Carrie 2, 3, 4. I don't know how many Carries are on my right side. So I just don't want to add anyone over there. Oh my goodness. Anyways, so I think it's important that you hear that people that, I've been in this business for a while. I've made over $100,000 piecing it together in these last few years, which has changed our lives. I've been able to invest in and expand my business offerings and show up and live a dream of mine, right? So it's like all these things are happening and the struggle's still there, right? The struggle doesn't disappear. And I still catch myself telling stories, but the power isn't not telling yourself stories. The power is catching yourself and then doing something about it, right? Because the inner critic doesn't ever go away. It just gets thrown to the back seat. So, okay, editing our stories. The second piece, controlling the controllables. This comes from a mentor of mine from University of Michigan, and it's just so powerful.
I just have to say that's where I hear you. Like, let it go, trust. And, I hear Sam when I'm just like telling myself, control the controllable, move on.
Yes. Because what else can you do? You think, and I think that we think that, especially former athletes, I think, and I don't mean to this applies to everyone, but we're oftentimes superstitious. So it's like, you think you can control the whole world. Like if I didn't do my stretch the exact same way, like I'd have a bad race or something. I mean, it's like all these things, you believe you have all this control when really.
Yeah. Like we may not have gone to the bathroom during the 4th quarter of the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, exactly.
We were controlling that. Yeah.
Right. Oh my goodness. So the controllables piece is huge. I mean, you cannot control what others think of you. You can't control how they respond to you. You can't control how they show up. And I don't know who said it. It was somebody that's mentored us, right? I'm reading some. Yes, it's so crazy. Part of that, I think, is getting in the zone, right? Like it's routine. and telling your body we're getting ready to go. And then other part of that is actually believing we have control over everything. Yeah. So you can't control what others think of you, and you can't control, I mean, no matter how you bend yourself, contort yourself, and do all this, like, you just cannot. And so once you accept that, you say, okay, well, what can I control? And that's where you say, okay, if you align your goals and actions, like if you want to hit 2-star, then you need to get up a number of invites. You need to touch people. I mean, then you do those things. And if someone says no, okay, you can't control their response, right? So, oh my gosh, do you really? That's funny. I'm getting distracted by the comments. Okay, so the phrase that was said at Summit this year, or someone picked up, I don't know where it came from. It's not, I don't take credit for this, but I do share this. We talk about this on our team so much, is being the bridge. That is exactly what we are. We are the bridge. That is it. You have to release yourself from holding on to expectations of what that person will say. So this is what I did for way too long. I got stuck in that space where everyone tells you not to get stuck in that space, where you turn diamond and then want to like mentor your team and drag them all along and like make them do things they don't really want to do. That was me for like, I can't even tell you how long, until I was like, okay, work with the willing. And that was, you know, on my whiteboard, work with the willing, and let their actions tell me what they're doing, not their words. Cause I had a lot of mismatch, tons of mismatch. Their whys were so strong and their actions didn't align. So anyways, being the bridge in the same way, we show up that way with the coaches that we're mentoring, and the same thing, you know, being the bridge as a mentor coach is like, here's all the stuff. I'm here to help you. You go do it. I can't drag you. This is on you, right? In the same way with the clients, my most recent client that I onboarded as a coach, because there was a financial need, I think with the inviting process, it comes down to, what can I control? Okay, I can't control how they're going to respond to me, but I can control how I show up. And showing up genuinely caring. I mean, genuinely caring. If you release this attachment to Success Club points and attachment to the money that you're going to bring in, all that, and you just trust that that will be there if you show up, you trust that that will be there. That's the letting go piece. And you control what you can, which is how you show up, and control what you can by getting underneath your limiting beliefs and working on you. Then the other pieces come, right? So for this last coach that just enrolled, it was like, my invitation to him was, how is your health? Because we had a relationship. I'd been following him on Facebook, and he posted something about his health. And he said, well, working on it. My next, response back to him was, well, what are the steps that you're taking? What are you doing for you? Because he said he's working on it. So I'm not going to assume, right, that he needs me until he tells me things that tell me, yes, he needs me, right? So needs me, not me. He needs the tools and me, right? A combination. And he said, well, and I could use help there. And so it was like, okay, get on the phone. That thing that we don't want to do, that is really powerful. That is so essential for me to know if they're my people, because through this invitation process, I don't take on everyone. I just don't. I do not invite everyone. I do publicly, but if they're not a good fit for me, I don't want to bring them. My team is too precious to me. Like, it's such a sacred space. And that may sound harsh, but they have to be willing to do hard things. That's another line that we say all the time, that we can do hard shit, and doing hard shit reminds us that we can do hard shit. I mean, that's who we are, right? So if someone's not willing to do hard shit, I don't want them on my team. I just don't, right? I know that I'll support them and love them in other ways, okay? So I was the bridge for him, and that's what I kept saying to him, is I'm not like, look, you decide if you walk across. This is how my invitations go these days. It's like, here's what I have. These tools are powerful, and I believe they can help you. You make that decision whether you jump in or not. I can't do it for you, and I cannot walk across that bridge with you. I will hold your hand, and I will mentor you and support you and help you. But at the end and across this bridge, like, my job is exactly what Summer was saying, is to get out of my own way and not hold your future captive in my mouth, because my limiting beliefs tell me that I'm not good enough or worthy or all that stuff, right? Or that you might be upset at me if I ask. I believe if you want to show up authentically, you have to ask, because you have this feeling inside of you that you could potentially help someone. So by choosing not to, you're choosing fear, not authenticity. You're letting fear win. And so being the bridge and asking people, how are you? How are you? Really caring. And you can't be the bridge for someone. You can't put that bridge up if you don't know what their issues are. if you don't know what their issues are. So I know, and there's no right way to do this business, but my philosophy and how I lead, we don't invite unless we feel a need is there. And you don't know if a need is there until you actually talk to people and connect with people. And the only exception to that is when you have people that are on that like list of badasses that you just want to be around, and then you invite them because you're just like, you want to be around them, right? So that's the exception where you're just like, I really think you'd want to do, I want you to do this with me. And that's more inviting to the coaching opportunity, right? So getting out of your own way and asking them really how things are doing, and being the bridge, seeing yourself as that. You're the bridge. You cannot control what they say to you or how they respond. The only thing you can control is how you show up to the conversation, what you offer them. And Carrie said this to me so many times. You cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. And that allows you to be human. I don't want teammates and clients who don't allow me to make mistakes, who don't allow me to say, hold on, shit, I just totally word vomited all over you. If they're going to be like, oh, whatever, I don't want them, right? I don't want them on my team. I don't want that judgment around me, because that lowers all of our energy to a place where it's not helping to lift. And the last are two more things. Comparing, oh goodness. Okay. Comparing. So there's this whole thing called effortless perfection, and I won't get too much into it, but this is what I talk about when I speak, because there's this idea out there that not only is it you have to be perfect, but it needs to be easy. Like perfection should come without effort and struggle. And it's a real researched term that exists, and I feel like it absolutely exists in this world of network marketing and people who are driving their businesses, entrepreneurs who are using social media. There's this idea of, look what I'm doing. I can do all of this in all these tiny minutes, and it's easy and it's wonderful and it's just great. And I feel like for a long time, I got really trapped into believing that, and the storytelling was just like out of control. There may be some who can do that, right? When it comes to ease, but I don't believe it. People, we all struggle. All of us have struggle. And for me, this idea, what was happening is I slip into comparison, and I would just tell myself stories like, they've got it all together. Like, what is wrong with me? How are they adding all these coaches? What is going on here? How are they going to this rank? Like, what's going on here? And I was comparing from this place, like, it looks so easy for them. They're on social media like 6 times a day, and they're like, so I got stuck in this mode of comparison. First of all, like you say this all the time, Summer, comparison's the thief of joy, right? Okay. There's so much truth to that. Like, that's, again, another one that's pinned to our walls of our house. My girls even, I don't know if they know what it means, but we talk about it all the time, especially with the twins. And the minute that you use someone else's success as a measuring stick for your own, you slide into a really dangerous place. And that dangerous place will stop you from inviting people. It will stop you from showing up to your business in a way that works for you. You don't know the whole story, right? You don't know what's actually going on in between those social media posts. You don't know how many hours they're showing up. You don't know how many people are helping them. The same goes for potential clients. Like, my husband's a strength and conditioning coach, and he's really good, and he could write me programs. And he did for a little while. And I have an athletic background, and I have all these things. So like, if Carrie had told herself the story, like, she doesn't need this, then I wouldn't be here today, right? So when you see these snippets and you start to go down that hole of filling in the blanks with those limiting beliefs, it's really, really dangerous. And the idea that no one struggles is just like absolute insanity. And everyone struggles, right? And when you start to share that struggle, people go, oh my gosh, me too. Maybe you can help me. And then the invitation comes naturally, right? It becomes part of that conversation. Like, you're sharing about your struggle with whatever it is. And now they're, behind the scenes, they're not showing you anything on social media that even gives you a glimpse that they're struggling. But all of a sudden it's like, okay, they're struggling too. And they reach out to you. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I can help you. So I think the invitations are the messages that we write privately behind the scenes but so much of it comes from how we show up on social media and what we're willing to share, and sharing our struggle is huge. And the minute that you get caught comparing, I actually had to unfollow a whole lot of coaches. I had to, because I was telling myself so many stories and they were being filtered through that belief, right? The belief set that I wasn't worthy or it wasn't going to happen for me. I mean, all these things. And so be the bridge and stop comparing. You know, do you, right? Unapologetically. And the last piece is getting support from mentors. I think that another thing I've heard echoed here so many times is that I even think I said this, like, I'll believe it when I see it, right? I'll believe it when I see it. And it's totally not that way. You see what you believe. And I went to Brene Brown on Tuesday in New York City. It was so powerful. There's so much there. I could go on about that. And one of the things that she said just was like, I lost my breath, because she was talking about belonging, but it applies to all of us. And when we go out looking for external validation that we're not enough, we will always find it. If you go out looking for reasons why you suck as a coach, you're going to find them. If you go out looking for reasons why you're not enough, you're going to find them. And really being able to doing that work that we talk about all the time, the personal development. I mean, that is it. Because if you can't rewrite those limiting beliefs, and you can't show up to a conversation to help people in a way that's fully you. And so, you know, if you want to show up authentically, you have to choose to be courageous and not hide behind that fear, right? And not let fear envelope you with whatever it is for you, like the perfectionist armor, all of that. So I think, you know, just like we want to do with our clients, like, why don't you don't even need to do this. Honestly, when you're at a place where you can stand firmly with your feet planted in the ground and be unapologetically you, it is the most freeing, liberating feeling in the world, right? And so instead of looking outside of you for all the things that you didn't do. So for example, in your business, my goal every day is 3 invitations. And it doesn't look like that all the time. Like, sometimes I'll sit down and do 20 at the beginning of a week and get them knocked out, because that's just how my schedule works. But I have the trackers, and I use those trackers, and I fill those trackers out. And there may be life happening, right? And I don't get to do that. And so I could tell myself that I suck as a coach and that my business is never going to grow because those spots are empty. Or I could say, okay, but I did do this. I made a call this week and I shared the coaching opportunity. And I did do these things. I think so often we get caught up on all the things that we're not doing to justify why we aren't good enough, instead of looking at what we actually have done for our business, who we actually have invited and talked to. Because when you focus on that and those conversations, it lifts your energy, and then you're going to want to do more of it, right? So get a coach, a mentor, therapist. Like, I go to therapy every week still. I mean, we're coming up on the 4th anniversary of Mia's heart surgery. And I still go because there's so much to talk about there. And getting mentors and push partners. I think Katie's on here. People who, when you're just so thick in your own head and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the story I'm telling myself, they can say to you, okay, I hear you, and you know this is the truth. And they can help ground you, right? And they help give you the skill set that you need. But I think, to sum it all up, that the invitation process, it's simple. It's about caring about people. But we really complicate it when we start to storytell. And so if we clean up our stories and filter them through the belief that we are good enough, that we are enough, that we are powerful, that these tools work, all of those things, it shifts how we show up in conversation. So I get so passionate about this, clearly. But thank you all for listening. And I don't know if you have questions. I don't know how you guys wrap this up, but I just appreciate this platform and being able to share, because that's one of the things that I've shared with Carrie too, is that this, like, being able to pay it forward. It's like, I don't know who benefits more, to be honest. My clients or me, my coaches or me, because it's like, it's so bucket filling, you know? So thank you for letting me have this time with you and sharing.
No, I think all of us are like, no, thank you. Like, I'm like writing and I'm like, I had to go kiss my kids. I was like, take good notes, Chad. There was a question up here. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I don't know if this sounds stupid, but how can we help someone who is struggling with the same thing we're struggling with if we can't figure it out ourselves first?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, I don't know that I'm a good advice giver when it comes to that. I think the answers are, this gets woo-woo-y, but I've moved to that place in my life. I think that I don't know that we can help someone when our wound is still so open. Like, I don't think I could have helped someone with PTSD when I was triggered, like living triggered 90-something% of the time of my life. I mean, I could barely function. I think that you can link arms. I guess I don't pretend to be the expert with people when I invite people. I don't pretend to be the expert. I literally use the language, let's link arms.
Mm-hmm.
And walk together and can share resources. But I don't know. I call myself a recovering perfectionist. I'm not sure what it is that you struggle with. And that doesn't go away. That's a daily choice. And my team is like a lot of recovering perfectionists, and a lot of my clients are really in it. So I don't know. I mean, if you're working on yourself, okay, I know so the answer Carrie gave me. In those early days when I was like, I can't do this. I'm like having like a physiological trigger. You know, my husband coaches at night, so he's gone, and I'm like freaking out, and I'm like, I can't show up. I don't know how to post. I don't know what to do. And she would say, go do PD, because that's work.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of your work, right? So go take a hot bath and read a book. Yep. And so by doing that, you know, something I share with my team is, we don't write from an open wound. We move, or I also use the analogy of riding a wave. So for me, it's a trigger, and it's like a wave. I get slammed, right? And I know that this is going to ride out. So I don't write and share and show up when I'm in the middle of it. It's when I'm on the outside of it. And this business, I could either make the choice to run away from it because it's too hard to share, or I say, I've got to post today, or tomorrow, or sometime soon. So I've got to work through this, right? And so it forces us to actually face the hard shit and work through the hard shit that we really kind of want to run away from, so that we can then share with people who are right where we were, you know, experiencing those things. So I don't know that I think you got to like pull into you. And if you're diving into the personal development and you're learning and growing, why couldn't you help someone alongside of you, right?
Yeah, I mean, what it makes me think of is like when Chad and I were struggling, when he was diagnosed with failure to adjust, you know, I didn't talk openly about it until like what?
Just recently.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that was 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The same with gut health. I mean, when I was like miserable and didn't know what was happening, I wasn't like, you're having gut issues too, let me help you. Like, do you know what I mean? Because I hadn't figured it out, but I said, hey, maybe we can bounce ideas and link arms and figure it out together. Do you know what I'm saying? And so I just think like we can change our language instead of being the source. I think, again, we just become the bridge, like you said.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, and I every time I struggle, I always tell Chad, and I don't know if this helps anyone, but part of my motivation for figuring it out is I know that everything can be used for good if I allow it, right? And so if I just keep looking for a solution, I will have something to share as I work through it, because he will use it for good.
Yes.
Yeah. That was really good. Anybody else have any more questions while you got her? I mean, I'm thinking like, what can I hire her to come speak at for me?
It's funny. I just connected with Scott, man, because I'm doing a class with Bo Easton, and he's like, yeah, he's like on the videos. Anyway, it's just like total full circle moments. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
That is really cool. That's really, really awesome. No questions, you guys? What's
the biggest struggle with invitations? That's interesting. Like, you know, what do you struggle with most? Does anyone want to share? Because to say we don't struggle is not, I don't know. That's not answering back.
Sam, I think you hit the nail on the head for me anyways, is it's the hardest piece of this whole process. We find so much joy in having conversations with people that we're already working with, you know, in our challenge groups that we're already, you know, doing. The new piece is the hardest piece, you know, to transition them to a trusting, loyal friendship is scary. And I think you did such a great job about, you know, us for us to focus on, what are our limiting beliefs and how do we get through those, and how do we take the filter off of what our heart really wants to say. I mean, because I feel like a lot of people do have those objections at the beginning, and the cost objections, which we don't normally have as you progress as leaders, because your belief is so strong.
Yeah.
Shakeology is not worth $100 and whatever dollars, $105 for a coach discount. It's worth $500. It's worth $1,000. Like it's cheap. Like that's the change in mindset. And so I think you painted a great picture for everyone to just dive into themselves a little. I think there's going to be a lot of reflecting. And I think you started off a nice little momentum for us to go into this fourth quarter with.
And I would say to piggyback on that, one of the exercises that I, when I work with people who, it's, you do that, write down like limiting beliefs, make a list, literally fold the paper. We did this on our team call the other day, fold it in hot dog style for all my teachers. So lengthwise, and on the left side, just write down all your beliefs about this business, what you do, who you are, all of that. And then make yourself rewrite them. Like look at all the bullshit you're telling yourself and then rewrite them. And you might not believe them at first, like, but work through that, right? And get people to help you. I think I saw a question and I was gonna, let's see. So when you don't, okay. So when someone doesn't write back, so there are definitely pieces to this where, it's a balancing act, right? You want to let go of whatever their answer is. But when you don't have an answer, you're like, okay, well, what do I do? I think in that case, what was helpful for me is to take screenshots and literally share. You can block out whatever personal information and share with Carrie so that she could see how I'm showing up in a conversation, to say like, okay, from this point of view, I think that this is what this is how you could tweak this here, to give you actual real feedback, right? On how maybe you're showing up in a way that is, doesn't seem different to you, or maybe you're showing up with that limiting belief and you can't see it yet. So having somebody like a push partner or a mentor coach help you to see sort of, sharing those conversations. And then I guess there's lots of different answers for, I guess, how you handle it. But when someone doesn't respond, I will check back with them. And at a certain point, I think I bring so much confidence now that I say, wait, are you still interested? I mean, I don't waste my time, but I don't box people in. Is this something that you're still interested in? Is a question that is this something that you want to do? And I'll reiterate what their why is, and I'll circle back. And if they don't answer me again, Carrie's, I don't know if you actually write this, but I think you might. You're like, I'm just over here talking to myself. Don't mind me. Right?
Okay, so I do follow that up. I say that to make it light, but then I'll say something along the lines like, seriously, girl, are you okay? I'm worried about you.
Right.
And then they respond. They always respond to that.
So, and you bring it back, and it's just like, yeah. I want them to know and feel like I care that they get help, whether it's my bridge they walk over or somebody else's. Like, clearly I'm biased, but if they get help and they're working on themselves. So I actually, when I follow up with people that I've invited prior who said not yet, or, I'm going to try this, it's like, okay, is what you're doing working? And if you found something that works for you, like, that is amazing. Go do it. If it's not working for you, then let's go. Right.
Yeah. What about this one right here, where it's like a new coach? I struggle with worrying about people asking me hard questions or not wording my invite effectively.
Okay. Yeah. So that, for me, I can really relate to that with the perfection piece. I would spend, I can't even tell you how many hours trying to write the perfect thing. And when you try to write and craft the perfect response or the perfect invite or the perfect anything, you're trying to control how they're responding on your other end instead of just showing up as you are. If you don't know something, you say, I don't know. That's actually something Brene talked about. She's like, when's the last time someone asked you a question you were like, I actually don't know. Tell me about that. Like, we're in this, this culture of we have to know everything. Like, we have to know everything about everything. And if we don't, then that's shame worthy, right? But the reality is, you say, I'm actually not sure. Let me check and see if I can help you with that. Like, I'll find the answer. And I say, this comes from teaching. I don't know what the answer is, but let's find out.
Yep.
But release yourself from that pressure, because when you have new coaches, you don't want them to feel like they have to know everything, right? When they get started, it's not really realistic.
That's why we came up with team pages. I don't know if everybody knows this, but I'm so old that I was in we did emails for our challenge groups when I first started, and we didn't have Facebook, really. And then we realized that, people had questions, and we wanted a place for people to be able to get the answers, because we all weren't supposed to have the answers. Now it seems like we all think we have to have the answers to everything. And that's what the team page is for, so that you don't have to know the answers. You're just the support piece, you guys. Like, that's what, and Carl talks about that. That's how we were that's why Team Beachbody was created. And I think sometimes the mission, or even the purpose behind what we do, is being lost. But, many years ago, when they had a decision whether to put their programs in Target and Sam's Club and stuff, or to start multi-level marketing type of business, they too were nervous, just like Sam, like, what will people think of me? Like, do you know what I mean? But when he really looked at what people needed to really get results, he knew they needed the support piece. And that's where we come in. That's all we were created for. So he looked on the message boards, and he saw the people getting the best results back in the day. And most of you don't even know what this is, won't even recognize this name, but Wowie Super Gym. Mm-hmm. Sam, do you remember, was that even around? No, old people like me. The Wowie, okay, Carrie, where people were talking, those were the people getting the results. So he went in there and picked out like 46 or something, I think is the number, and brought them in to share this idea. And most of them said no. Most of them said no the first time. I was just talking to Doug Fitzgerald the other day. I'd never heard this story. He was a pastor at the time, and he was like, no, like, no. And then went home and felt God was convicting him of it. And he just cried like, no, like, I want to do, but he truly felt that's where he was being guided for that support piece. And that's all we are, you guys. We are the support piece. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think like we always think we have to know everything. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. And I think that when you were just talking about that, I think that, when I would storytell and compare, it was like all these people running these food groups. And I'm like, I don't want to come off like I know anything. I mean, we talk about sugar here, and I'm an eternal student and all that, but like, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. And so I'm so excited for the Clean Week, but the resources that we have, like, that's what we're connecting them to. I don't have to create that. I can create content in a group and share me and personality, but we're literally the bridge to the professionals that they've handpicked, right? With the tools. So it's like releasing yourself from having to know all the things. I think that that's perfection. That's the deep fear of being found out when someone's like, ha, you don't know the answer. Like, yeah, you're not a good coach or whatever. I don't know. Whatever story you tell yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I think sometimes what's attached to being a part of network marketing, like you were talking about, it's well, at least for me, it was like, really, that's what you decided to do with your life? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, wow, we had much bigger plans for you. You know what I mean? I was a college athlete, and, graduated very high in my class and all that kind of stuff. And so I think what I started to do is I started to create things, and I've heard other coaches that have this view of what maybe their parents thought they should do. We start to like overdo it to just prove that
proving. Yes. Oh, like, yes.
Right.
The proving. Oh my gosh. So you're hitting on something that actually should have come in here, that because it's a huge piece. The proving. We don't have to prove anything. Like, you don't have to prove anything. And when you get into that place, we have to prove that Shakeology works, and prove that the tools work, or prove, like, you release that. Like, there's no need to prove anything. You literally just, absolutely. And I felt the same. Yes. I remember I showed someone my, it was like the 30-day guide that you made. I had literally sat on my bed and I printed out like all the ones that you had shared, all the ones that Megan and Carrie shared. I mean, all of them. And I was like, I have to create my own, right? Because I had to prove that I could do this too. And it was like, oh gosh, yeah, the proving. Yeah, that's another limiting belief. Absolutely.
Yeah, I see it a lot too as people move in, and it's almost when people might be right around the diamond, and it's usually where a diamond can get burnt out because they all of a sudden I need to prove that I'm worthy of this rank. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole team page and a header and logos, and the thing goes, and now it's like they're running the whole thing, and now they're out of phase one, they're in management mode. Everything's on top of them, they feel like, and I'm like, oh yeah, I see it all the time.
Does anyone else have any questions? Inviting. Let's see. What is it? Job of sport. Do you see any more?
I think a lot of the things I keep seeing people say is they'll mess up the conversation, which I don't know if you can really, but that's
what does that mean, I guess? Does anyone want to share what does that mean you mess it up?
Which, I mean, if we want to talk about messing it up, I think that's how we learn too. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know, Carrie, have you ever went back and looked at some of the first messages you sent? You know what I mean? You're like, oh my gosh. And
yeah. So like the birthday message is great, but sometimes it brings you back to an ugly message that you last left. It's like, oh, you say happy birthday and can I have a do-over? What was that all about?
Sorry about that right there.
Oops.
But what does mess it up mean? What does that mean? I think walking down the storytelling is really important. Like, what does messing up mean?
Yeah. I think for me, like when I look back at an invite mess up, I back in the beginning, like I never found the need. It wasn't about them. It was about getting the invite out. And I told them everything. Do you know what I mean? I didn't even know if it was right fit for them,
right.
You know? And so I think I always, Tommy Migrant taught me a long time ago to fall on your sword, so to speak. Like that is high level leadership, to be able to go like, wow, like that, what I just wrote above, like, I'm so sorry. Like, you can tell them whatever you're feeling, you know what I mean? But I have gotten so many great responses when you just tell them, say, I'm sorry, and what you were feeling. Like you either prove yourself or you were just learning and you thought, you needed to, you weren't allowing yourself to be your authentic you or whatever. Like people really appreciate honesty like that.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. In going back and asking for do-overs. You'll stop talking.
Here's the last one, and then we'll let you go because I know.
What?
I think they're worried people stop talking to them because I'm always and only talking to them about my challenge group, and I would watch talking to people only about challenge groups and probably, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. You can answer that, Sam.
So I guess my question would be, why are you only talking to them about your challenge group in Beachbody? Or is that the story that is it grounded in reality? I think that's my first question. Like, is that grounded in reality, or is that a story that you're telling yourself or how you feel? And if it's grounded in reality, then getting to know them and saying, hold on, like, wait a minute. Like, I just, I love what I do here, but I feel like I need to know more about you, or however you show up. I go like, I am a deep person and go heavy and like all of that. Like, so when it comes to people, I'm a lover. So I'll probably use that, that though my words aren't your words, you have to show up, I think, authentically in the conversation, but you can't really help them if they're not talking, if you're doing all the talking. I think that's one thing. It's kind of like I guess it's a goal of mine, is that they write more than I write. Yeah. Right? Like when we're doing messages back and forth, it's like I want them talking a lot more than me. And when we're on the phone, I want them talking more than me.
Yeah.
And if you're not genuinely interested in them, then maybe they're not like a good fit for you, and getting to know them. And if you don't have things in common, do you not talk to them because of fear?
Yeah, probably again a story, and I think she said it's a story she's telling herself.
Oh, she did. Oh, okay, yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the story you're telling yourself.
So the last question on if these are stories people are telling themselves, and you've done that, do you feel what really caused you to stop telling that story as much to yourself? Do you think it's action? Was it like? Do you have like?
Oh man. Okay. So it's a whole lot of like tons of, personal development and rewriting. I think the first thing you have to do is catch yourself doing it. I think awareness is really empowering. So if I can't catch myself doing it, I can't change it. Right. And so that might be the conversation that I have with Carrie, or a conversation I have with Katie, or a conversation I have with my team where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what just happened, or reflecting. But I think the awareness piece is huge. So I'm not kidding when I say write down. Like, if you're in the middle of typing an invite after you get off this call and you start to hear that voice like running away with something, or you're feeling the sensations in your body, like you're feeling nervous, tight, fear, whatever, you just kind of stop to say like, well, what am I telling myself here? Or what am I actually afraid of here? What am I trying to do here? And you just kind of walk it down to really identify what it is. So for me, it's been tons. I mean, I really am an eternal student. I read the personal development piece is absolutely number one in my life. So I think it's been through that process and being able to, have conversations with my therapist and have conversations. I have coaches. So outside of Beachbody coaches, I hire personal coaches to help me. Business coaches and all sorts, so that they can, so I'll say to them, this is what I'm telling myself. And we get to the bottom of it. The proving one is one that just recently came out for me. Feeling that need to prove every time I wrote, every time I wrote a message or wrote a post on Facebook, it's like, what am I trying to prove? I'm just going to be me. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I think the stories that you tell yourself, to capture them, you have to be aware of them, and to be aware of them, you have to start to tune in and listen and pay attention to your body as you're showing up.
And that reminds me to even be aware of them. I think Carl Deichler said it best. And he said, you have to want success more than you want the pity party. So more that you want to move in a positive direction more than you want to defend where you're at. Like, you know what I mean? You have to be in this, like, I don't think people are willing to be aware when they're not willing to move forward. Like sometimes they just want to justify where they're at.
Yes.
So you have to.
Yeah, that's level, like, so I call that, like, that's like level 1 energy. It's victimhood. Like, it's just like, you just stay down low, like at that level 1 energy where it's you're a victim and it's the world versus you. And it's all these thoughts all those dark, deep limiting beliefs that are holding you back. And you have to want to climb into 2. You have to want to like elevate yourself. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But with that said, I think this is like the last thing I will add is the hard stuff, right? I mean, you choose your hard. I've heard, this is not my message, but it's a message that I scream and shout it from the rooftops, is that, staying stuck with your limiting beliefs, that's hard. And going out and inviting and working on yourself and rewriting the limiting beliefs you have, that's hard. That's really hard. And that's why a lot of people, I believe, don't stick with coaching, because what we're doing when we sign up to coach is we're asking, when you sign up to coach, you're committing to doing hard shit and committing to rewriting your own, like, to working on you. And our clients are committed to working on them. And that's the kind of hard that leads to the ultimate freedom and liberation and happiness and deep joy, versus the other kind of hard of making the choice. You have your choice, you pick which hard, but the other kind of hard is staying stuck where you are in this, I don't know, just this dark, for me, it was this armored up place.
Prison. That seems like it's like one heart is a prison, and and leads you and keeps you in a prison. I feel like the other heart leads you to freedom. Mm-hmm. You get to pick which one. Each one's going to be hard for us. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, absolutely.
Kind of hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, Sam, you're amazing. I think you just won over everybody.
Thanks for having me on. Really. I'm
just really blown away by, last week with Krista and then this week with you. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm just blown away by you guys. Really, really. Mm-hmm. I love that you're working with Bo, because I think you have a lot to tell. You know what I mean? And we're very blessed to have you on this team to help share with us. So like someone just said, you can drop the mic. Yep. I'm already thinking like, okay, I'm going to save this. I need to have this video going out to this person, like, lots of people struggle with this, Sam. I think you just help a lot of people go to the next level and work through I think you gave a lot of people freedom tonight, and I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Really, really.
Yes. It's worth it. It's worth the hard. Yes. Sure. Yes. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And thanks for all your videos, right? When I got started, it's like, oh my goodness, the ripple effect is just really it's just so cool. So
it is a cool process. Yeah. That's for sure. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you as well for not putting her captive in your mouth. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Love you guys. See ya.